I moved in with my GF and she started joking about dating rich guys. Now my wealthy friend is harassing her at work. I, 28 male, have been with my girlfriend Becca, 25 female, for about 18 months now. We met during a charity run event where we were both volunteering. I was immediately drawn to her warm smile and infectious laugh. As we got to talking, I found myself captivated by her down-to-earth nature and genuine interest in helping others. It was refreshing to meet someone who seemed so unconcerned with material possessions or status. Our relationship progressed quickly after that. We bonded over our shared love of the outdoors, trying new cuisines, and binge-watching obscure documentaries. Becca's passion for her work as a graphic designer was inspiring, and I loved hearing about her latest projects. As for me, I work as a high school science teacher. It's not the most glamorous job, but I find it incredibly rewarding. When we first started dating, Becca's humble attitude was one of the things I admired most about her. She was always content with simple dates like picnics in the park or cooking dinner together at home. She never pressured me to take her to expensive restaurants or buy her lavish gifts. It was a stark contrast to some of my previous relationships, where I often felt like my bank account was being valued more than my personality. That's why I was caught completely off guard when Becca started making these weird jokes about our finances recently. It all began about a month ago when we decided to move in together. We chose my apartment since it was closer to both our workplaces and made more sense financially. The process of combining our lives and our finances seemed to trigger something in Becca. At first, it was just little comments here and there. She'd jokingly say things like, "Wouldn't it be nice if we could afford a penthouse instead of this shoebox? Or maybe we should start playing the lottery so we can retire early." I didn't think much of it at the time. I mean, who hasn't daydreamed about suddenly coming into a fortune, right? But then the jokes started becoming more frequent and more specific. Becca began making comments about how life would be easier if she was dating a millionaire. She'd scroll through Instagram, point out celebrities or influencers flaunting their wealth, and say things like, "Now that's the kind of lifestyle I could get used to." I tried to laugh it off, but I couldn't help feeling a twinge of insecurity each time she made these comments. I started to wonder if she was really joking or if there was some truth behind her words. Was she unsatisfied with our life together? Did she regret moving in with me? Things really took a turn for the worse when my friend Robbie entered the picture. Robbie and I go way back. We've known each other since middle school. We were never super close, but we've always run in the same social circles. Robbie comes from a well-off family. His parents own a successful chain of restaurants, and he's set to take over the business someday. I've always been a bit envious of Robbie's easy life, if I'm being honest. While I was working part-time jobs and taking out student loans to get through college, Robbie was driving a brand new car and living in a luxury apartment paid for by his parents. But I never let it affect our friendship. Robbie's a decent guy, and he's never been one to flaunt his wealth or look down on others. About 2 months ago, Robbie started dating Becca's coworker Emily. When Becca found out, she was weirdly excited about it. She kept talking about how we should all hang out together and how fun it would be to go on double dates. I didn't think much of it at the time, but looking back, I should have seen the red flags. The first time we all got together, Becca's reaction to Robbie was intense. From the moment he walked in, she couldn't take her eyes off him. She laughed a little too hard at all his jokes and kept finding excuses to touch his arm or shoulder. I actually had to nudge her at one point to remind her that I was sitting right there. It was pretty embarrassing, to be honest. After that night, Becca's jokes about dating someone rich started to focus specifically on Robbie. She'd say things like, "Maybe I should have gone after Robbie instead." Or, "I bet Emily never has to worry about paying rent." Each comment felt like a little dagger to my heart. I know I'm not as wealthy or conventionally attractive as Robbie. I'm just an average-looking guy with a receding hairline and a bit of a dad bod. But I've always tried to be a good boyfriend to Becca. I take her out on dates whenever I can, even if it means dipping into my savings. I buy her thoughtful gifts for special occasions, like the custom-made necklace with her grandmother's handwriting that I got for her birthday. I always make an effort to show her how much I care, whether it's through small gestures like leaving her favorite coffee ready in the morning or bigger ones like planning surprise weekend getaways. But lately, I'm starting to wonder if that's enough for her. The constant comparisons to Robbie and his lifestyle are really getting to me. I find myself second-guessing every decision I make, wondering if it's good enough for Becca. Should I be working longer hours to try and get a promotion? Should I be looking for a higher-paying job, even if it means giving up the teaching career I love? Last week, things came to a head when we were out on a double date with Robbie and Emily. We were at this trendy new restaurant that I had to save up for weeks to afford. Robbie had just gifted Emily an expensive-looking diamond bracelet just because, and Becca wouldn't stop gushing over it. She kept making these pointed comments about how lucky Emily was and how she wished she had a boyfriend who could afford things like that. I tried to keep my cool, but I could feel my anger and frustration building with every backhanded comment. Finally, when Becca made yet another joke about trading me in for Robbie, I snapped. I told her that if she wanted to be with Robbie so badly, maybe she should just go for it. I threw some cash on the table to cover our part of the bill and stormed out of the restaurant. I ended up going to stay with my brother for a few days to cool off. Being around his chaotic household, he has 3 kids under the age of 5, helped put things in perspective. My brother and his wife don't have a lot of money, but they're happy. They've built a life together based on love and mutual respect, not material possessions. Becca's been blowing up my phone with calls and texts, saying she was just joking and didn't mean anything by it. But I can't help but feel like there's some truth behind her words. The Becca I fell in love with would never have acted this way. I don't know if it's the stress of moving in together, or if this materialistic side of her has always been there and I just didn't see it. I love Becca, but I'm starting to question whether we're really compatible in the long run. Can I ever trust that she's truly happy with me, or will I always be wondering if she's secretly wishing for someone with more money? And even if she is just joking, is it fair for her to constantly make me feel inadequate? For context, Becca and I both come from middle-class backgrounds. We met in college and bonded over our shared experiences of working part-time jobs to help pay for school. After graduation, we both landed entry-level positions in our fields. We're doing okay financially, but we're definitely not rolling in cash. I've always been more of a saver, while Becca tends to be a bit more impulsive with her spending. It's caused a few arguments in the past, but nothing major. At least, not until now. I thought we were on the same page about building a future together, saving up for a house, maybe starting a family someday. But now I'm not so sure. I guess I'm just feeling really insecure and don't know how to move forward. Part of me wants to forgive Becca and try to work things out. But another part of me wonders if this is a fundamental incompatibility that we'll never be able to overcome. Any advice would be appreciated. Update 1. I want to start by thanking everyone for their responses to my original post. Your advice and perspectives gave me a lot to think about and ultimately gave me the courage to confront the situation head on. After spending a few days at my brother's place, I decided it was time to face Becca and have an honest conversation about everything that's been going on. I texted her to let her know I was coming back to the apartment, and she responded immediately, saying she'd be waiting for me. When I walked in, the atmosphere was tense. Becca was sitting on the couch, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her usually perfectly styled hair was in a messy bun, and she wasn't wearing any makeup. As soon as she saw me, she burst into tears and started apologizing profusely. We sat down, and Becca began to open up about some things from her past that I didn't know about. It turns out that her family went through some serious financial hardships when she was a teenager. Her dad, who had been the primary breadwinner, lost his job during the 2008 financial crisis. They almost lost their house, and Becca had to start working at 16 to help support the family. She described how scary and stressful that time was for her. She would lie awake at night, listening to her parents argue about money. She'd skip meals at school so she could save her lunch money to contribute to the family's expenses. The constant fear of not having enough, of losing everything, had a profound impact on her. Becca explained that when we moved in together and started combining our finances, all those old anxieties started bubbling up again. The jokes about dating someone rich were her misguided way of trying to cope with those feelings. She said she never really wanted to be with Robbie or anyone else. It was more about the security that his wealth represented. As for her reaction to Robbie, Becca admitted that she was initially dazzled by his wealth and good looks. But she swears that it was just a superficial attraction, fueled by her own insecurities. She said she loves me and only wants to be with me, but she understands how her behavior must have hurt me. I listened to everything Becca had to say, and then I opened up about my own feelings. I told her how hurt I've been by her comments and behavior. I explained that it made me feel like I wasn't good enough for her, like no matter how hard I tried, I would never be able to give her the life she really wanted. I also shared some of my own insecurities. I admitted that I've always felt a bit inadequate compared to guys like Robbie. I told her about the pressure I feel to be the provider in our relationship, even though I know it's an outdated concept. I opened up about my fears that I'll never be able to give her the kind of lifestyle she seems to admire. Becca broke down crying again when I said all this. She apologized over and over, saying she never meant to make me feel that way. She promised to stop making those kinds of jokes and to be more mindful of how her words and actions affect me. We talked about healthier ways for both of us to deal with our financial anxieties. Becca agreed to look into some financial planning resources and maybe talk to a therapist about her past experiences. I admitted that I could probably benefit from some counseling as well, to work through my own insecurities. We also discussed our future together and what we both want out of life. Becca reassured me that she doesn't need or want a lavish lifestyle. She said that what she values most is the emotional security and partnership we have together. We talked about our shared goals, buying a house someday, traveling together, maybe starting a family, and how we can work towards those goals as a team. I'm still processing everything, to be honest. I love Becca, and I want to believe that we can work through this. But I'd be lying if I said all my doubts and insecurities have magically disappeared. I think we have a lot more talking and work to do. For now, we've agreed to take things day by day. Becca's going to stay with her sister for a week or so to give us both some space to think. We're planning to meet up again after that to reassess where we stand. One positive thing that came out of this conversation is that we both realized we need to be more open and honest with each other about our feelings and fears. We've always prided ourselves on our communication, but clearly, there were some big issues we weren't addressing. I'm cautiously optimistic about our future together, but I'm also trying to be realistic. I know that one conversation, no matter how deep and emotional, isn't going to solve all our problems overnight. We both have some serious work to do on ourselves and our relationship. I appreciate all the advice and support from everyone here. It really helped me gather the courage to have this difficult conversation with Becca. I'll keep you updated on how things progress as we navigate this challenging time in our relationship. Update 2. It's been about 3 weeks since my last update, and a lot has happened. Becca and I continued to have regular conversations during her stay at her sister's place. We both did a lot of soul-searching and thinking about our relationship. When Becca came back home, we had another long talk. She told me that she'd done some serious reflection on her behavior and realized how toxic it had been. She apologized again and said she wanted to make things right. She'd even started seeing a therapist to work through her issues with money and security. I was impressed by Becca's commitment to change and felt like we were finally getting back on track. We started having regular finance dates where we'd sit down and go over our budget together, discussing our goals and how to achieve them. It was actually bringing us closer together, and I felt like we were truly partners in planning our future. However, just as things were looking up for us, something unexpected happened. Robbie and Emily broke up. Apparently, Emily caught Robbie flirting with other women at a bar and decided she'd had enough. The news spread quickly through our social circle, and suddenly Robbie was single again. Here's where things get complicated. A few days after the breakup, Becca came home looking upset. She confessed that Robbie had reached out to her on social media, asking if she wanted to grab coffee and catch up. Becca showed me the message and assured me she had no intention of meeting up with him, but she was torn about how to respond. I appreciated Becca's honesty, but I couldn't help feeling a twinge of anxiety. After everything that had happened, the idea of Robbie trying to connect with Becca made me uncomfortable. I tried to play it cool, but I could feel all my old insecurities bubbling up again. We talked it through, and Becca agreed that it would be inappropriate for her to meet up with Robbie, especially given our recent issues. She decided to politely decline his invitation and block him on social media to avoid any further complications. I thought that would be the end of it, but then Robbie started showing up at Becca's workplace. He claimed he was there to see other friends, but Becca said he always managed to run into her. She told me she tried to avoid him, but he kept finding reasons to talk to her. This whole situation has brought up all the insecurities I thought we were working through. Part of me wonders if Becca is secretly flattered by Robbie's attention, even though she insists she wants nothing to do with him. I catch myself scrutinizing her reactions when Robbie's name comes up, looking for any sign that she might still be interested in him. I trust Becca, but I can't help feeling uneasy about the whole thing. I don't want to be the jealous, controlling boyfriend, but I also don't want to be naive. I find myself torn between wanting to believe the best in Becca and protecting myself from getting hurt. Becca and I are still working on rebuilding our relationship, but this Robbie situation has thrown a wrench into things. We're trying to navigate it together, but it's definitely adding strain to an already delicate situation. I'm not sure what our next steps should be. Part of me wants to confront Robbie and tell him to back off, but I know that could create even more drama. Another part of me wants to ask Becca to find a new job to get away from Robbie, but I know that's not fair to her career. For now, we're taking it one day at a time. Becca continues to be open with me about her interactions with Robbie, and I'm doing my best to trust her. But I can't shake this feeling of unease. I love Becca and want to make our relationship work, but I also don't want to set myself up for heartbreak. Any advice on how to handle this new development would be greatly appreciated. How do I balance trusting Becca with protecting myself? And how do we deal with Robbie's presence in our lives without letting it derail all the progress we've made? Update 3. I didn't expect to be posting another update so soon, but things have taken a dramatic turn. Yesterday, Becca came home from work visibly shaken. She was pale and trembling, and I immediately knew something was wrong. After I calmed her down with a cup of tea, Becca told me what had happened. Robbie had cornered her in the parking lot after her shift. At first, he was just trying to talk to her, asking why she was ignoring him and insisting that they had a connection. But then, out of nowhere, he tried to kiss her. Becca said she pushed him away and told him to leave her alone, but Robbie kept insisting that they were meant to be together. He said that he had always been interested in her, even when he was with Emily, and that he knew Becca felt the same way. He brought up all those jokes Becca used to make about wanting to date him, saying he knew she had meant them. Hearing this made my blood boil. I was furious at Robbie for his actions, but I was also frustrated that it had gotten to this point. Part of me felt like if Becca had shut down his advances more firmly from the beginning, it might not have escalated to this level. But I knew that wasn't fair. Robbie's behavior was entirely his own responsibility. Becca was really upset and kept apologizing, saying she never thought Robbie would do something like this. She swore that she had given him no encouragement and that she only wanted to be with me. I believed her, but I couldn't help feeling a mix of emotions, anger at Robbie, concern for Becca, and a lingering sense of insecurity about our relationship. After Becca calmed down, we discussed our options. She decided she wanted to report Robbie's behavior to her company's HR department. I supported her decision and offered to go with her for moral support. We spent the evening documenting everything that had happened, from Robbie's initial social media message to the incident in the parking lot. This morning, we went to Becca's workplace together. She filed a formal complaint against Robbie, detailing his harassment. The HR manager assured her they would investigate the matter seriously and take appropriate action. They also offered to adjust Becca's schedule or work location to ensure she wouldn't have to interact with Robbie during the investigation. As we were leaving the office, we ran into Robbie in the lobby. When he saw us together, he started causing a scene. He accused Becca of leading him on and called me names, saying I was holding Becca back from the life she really wanted. Security had to escort him out of the building. The whole incident left us both shaken. Becca is now considering looking for a new job, as she doesn't feel comfortable working in the same environment as Robbie, even if action is taken against him. I support her in whatever decision she makes, but I hate that she might have to disrupt her career because of Robbie's actions. This situation has really opened my eyes to a lot of things. While I'm glad Becca finally took decisive action against Robbie's behavior, I can't help but feel that this whole mess could have been avoided if we had both handled things differently from the start. If we had been more open about our insecurities and concerns, maybe we could have presented a united front against Robbie's advances from the beginning. Becca and I still have a lot to work through in our relationship. This experience has brought us closer in some ways. We're united in dealing with this external threat, but it's also highlighted some of the trust issues we still need to address. We both recognize that we need to keep working on our communication and addressing the underlying issues that made our relationship vulnerable in the first place. For now, we're taking things one day at a time. Becca is looking into counseling to help her process everything that's happened, and I'm trying my best to be supportive while also working through my own feelings about the situation. We're committed to rebuilding the trust and security in our relationship, but we both know it's going to take time and effort. I'm not sure what the future holds for us or how this situation with Robbie will play out. Will the company take serious action against him? Will Becca need to find a new job? How will this incident affect our wider social circle? There are still so many unanswered questions. Despite all the uncertainty, I'm cautiously optimistic. This crisis has shown me how much Becca and I care about each other and how we can come together when it really matters. We still have a long way to go, but I believe we're on the right path. Thanks again for all the support and advice from this community. It's been invaluable during this challenging time. I may post another update if there are any significant developments, but for now, we're just focusing on healing and moving forward together.